You stand up from the couch with a clear, specific purpose. You know exactly what you're doing. You walk across the room, through the doorway, into the kitchen, and the moment you arrive, it's gone. Whatever you came for has vanished completely. You stand there, blank, staring at the fridge, trying to reverse engineer your own intention from nothing. Why am I here? What did I want? It happens to everyone. And most people quietly file it away as a small sign that something is wrong with them. They're getting older. Their memory is slipping. Their brain is starting to fail in tiny ways. But that's not what's happening, not even close. What you just experienced has a name. It's been studied in a laboratory, and the explanation is far stranger and far more interesting than your memory is bad. Because your brain didn't fail. It did exactly what it was built to do. You just walked straight into one of its hidden seams. It's called the doorway effect, and once you understand it, you'll never look at a doorway the same way again. In 2011, a psychologist named Gabriel Radvansky at the University of Notre Dame ran a series of experiments to study this exact moment. He set up a simple task. People had to pick up an object on a table, carry it somewhere, and remember what they were holding. Sometimes they walked across a large room to set it down. Other times they walked the exact same distance but passed through a doorway into a different room. The result was clear and a little unsettling. When people walked through a doorway, they forgot what they were carrying far more often than when they walked the same distance within a single room. The distance was identical. The effort was identical. The only thing that changed was that they crossed a threshold. And that one act, passing through a door, was enough to knock the information loose. So Radvansky did something clever to test it further. He recreated the whole thing in a virtual environment, on a screen where people moved through rooms with a controller and never actually stood up or walked anywhere, and the effect held. People forgot more after passing through a virtual doorway than after crossing a virtual room of the same size. Their bodies hadn't moved at all, but their brains had still registered a doorway and still hit the reset. To understand why, you have to understand something your brain is doing constantly that you have never once noticed. Your life feels like a single, continuous stream, one moment flowing into the next, smooth and unbroken, like a film with no cuts. But that is not how your brain stores it. Your brain cannot hold a seamless, infinite recording, so it does something else. It chops your experience into pieces. Psychologists call these pieces events, and the moment one event ends and another begins is called an event boundary. An event boundary is your brain's version of a scene change, and the brain uses these boundaries to manage memory. When you cross one, your brain makes a decision. The event you were just in is over. File it away, clear the workspace, get ready for whatever comes next. It's like closing one browser tab and opening a fresh one. Useful, efficient, and absolutely brutal on whatever you happen to be holding in your head at the moment of the switch. And here is the key. A doorway is one of the most powerful event boundaries your brain has. Walking through a door is, for your brain, the end of one scene and the start of another. New room, new context, new event. So the instant you cross that threshold, your brain quietly files away everything from the room you just left, including the reason you were going anywhere in the first place. Your intention was part of the old scene, and you just left the old scene behind. And of everything your brain could drop, an intention is the most fragile thing of all. A plan to do something in a few seconds isn't a solid memory yet. It's a flimsy little note your brain is holding loosely in its hand, waiting for the right moment to act on it. Psychologists call this prospective memory, and it is notoriously easy to knock loose. It isn't anchored to anything yet. So when the boundary hits and the workspace clears, that flimsy note is the very first thing to blow away. But there's another layer to this, and it's why the kitchen feels so useless when you arrive. Your memory doesn't store information in a vacuum. It stores it tangled up with the place and the situation where you formed it. This is called context-dependent memory. The thought "I need scissors" wasn't filed on its own. It was filed together with the couch, the room, the angle of the light, the thing you were looking at when the thought appeared. Those surroundings became part of the memory's address. So when you stand up and walk into a different room, you've left the entire context behind. You're now standing in the kitchen surrounded by completely different cues, none of which point back to the thought you had on the couch. The memory still exists. You just no longer have the key to find it. This is also why one trick actually works. If you walk back into the room where you had the thought, it often comes flooding back. You're not jogging your memory by trying harder. You're physically returning to the place where the memory was stored, stepping back inside the original scene, and suddenly the cues line up again. But here's the strange part. It doesn't always work. In some of Radvansky's tests, even returning to the original room didn't fully bring the memory back. And that told researchers something important. The doorway wasn't only stripping away the context that helped you find the thought. The simple act of crossing the boundary had already pushed your brain to set down what it was holding. The threshold doesn't just move you somewhere new. It tells your brain the last moment is finished. Now step back and look at what this really means. Because the doorway effect isn't a glitch. It's a tiny, visible side effect of one of the most important things your brain does. Think about how much happens to you in a single day. Thousands of moments, sights, sounds, conversations, decisions. If your brain tried to store all of it as one endless unbroken tape, you would never be able to find anything in it. It would be like a security camera that records forever but has no timestamps and no chapters. Useless. So instead, your brain breaks the day into manageable chunks. It draws boundaries. It files each event separately so it can be found later. This is what lets you remember your life as a series of distinct moments instead of one shapeless blur. The doorway effect is just the moment you catch your brain in the act of drawing one of those lines. The forgetting isn't the system breaking. The forgetting is the system working, and you simply happen to be holding something when it filed the box. And once you see this, something stranger comes into focus. Your sense that life is one smooth, continuous experience is, in a way, an illusion. Your brain is not recording a single uninterrupted film. It is constantly cutting. Scene, boundary, all day long. Every time you change rooms, change tasks, change topics, change settings. It happens when you walk into a meeting, when you switch from one app to another, when a conversation suddenly jumps subjects, when you step out into the street. Each one is a tiny scene change, a quiet cut you never see. And most of them cost you nothing, because you weren't carrying anything across. You don't notice the cuts because the brain stitches the footage together so smoothly that it feels seamless, but the seams are there. The doorway effect is one of the rare moments when a seam becomes visible, when you actually feel the splice between one scene of your life and the next. That's the part most people never realize. We tend to think of memory as a recording, a faithful copy of what happened. But memory isn't a recording, it's an edit. Your brain is the editor, working in real time, deciding where one moment ends and the next begins, what to keep in the active workspace and what to quietly file away. And like any editor, sometimes it cuts a little too soon, and the thing you were carrying ends up on the cutting room floor. So the next time you walk into a room and stand there, completely blank, with no idea why you came, don't worry that your mind is failing. The opposite is true. You just watched your brain do something extraordinary. It took the endless, overwhelming stream of your life and, in a single instant, drew a clean line through it. Closed one chapter, opened the next. The reason you forgot is the same reason you can remember anything at all. And that doorway you're about to walk through next, it's already waiting to do it again.